My name's Helena Hawke, and I'm a Miss Wales 2023 finalist, and this is my interview with the Pageant project.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
It's Adrian from the
evening.
Pageant Project, and my special guest for today is a girl who has the best name ever, Helena Hawke, who's a Miss Wales 2023 finalist. Helena, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I am doing very well. How's life in sunny old Wales?
Well, it's actually been all right recently. We've had some sun. It's been quite cold though, but some sun.
When you say what does that mean in Wales? Because as I was telling you, I lived in Wales for a bit, and some sun, like one little sliver, a whole sunny day. I can't believe that.
Well, a few days ago, actually, it was raining in the morning and then it just turned to blissful sunshine, but it was still quite cold. You know, that winter sun? You still have to wear like a jacket, but it's nice and warm. You can go for a walk.
So the winter sun that does absolutely nothing. It lights everything up, but you're still freezing cold.
Yeah.
Now, just for people who don't know you, let me read out your bio here. This is why I needed to ask you how to pronounce Caerleon. So, in case you don't know who Helena is, so an ambitious 18-year-old from Caerleon and a Miss Wales 2023 finalist, Helena is a budding humanitarian with a strong passion for sociology and psychology, which she is currently pursuing through her A-level studies. With a family rich in military heritage, it comes as no surprise that Helena aspires to join the forces. She comes from a lineage of military personnel, including her father, mother, uncle, and grandfather, and is deeply inspired by their service and the impact it has had on her life. To fulfill her goal, Helena joined the Royal Air Force Cadets at the age of 14 and has been volunteering there twice a week, working her way up the ranks. She noticed a lack of female cadets and decided to use her platform to empower young women to pursue careers in male-dominated environments. When not studying or volunteering, Helena indulges in her love for photography and serves as the official photographer for her local football team, the Birdwatchers. As a Miss Wales finalist, Helena is determined to raise public awareness about the significance of the RAF, so the Royal Air Force. She intends to host charity events in her squadron to educate women across Wales about the opportunities and skills that can be gained from being part of the RAF community. With her drive and passion, Helena is a young woman to watch in the coming years. I might have written that last part. She didn't write that about herself, just in case you're hearing that and going, wow, she thinks highly of herself. And if you want to follow Helena, I obviously encourage you to do so. Instagram.com, Helena Hawke. Just look at the name. It's such a cool name.
Can you guess what my favourite plane is as well? The Hawk, obviously.
Oh, I'm not. We'll get onto that in a sec.
Okay.
I don't know that much about the Hawk, but and then the cause that obviously Helena is passionate about, the RAF Air Cadets homepage, https raf.mod.uk/air cadets. Well, Helena, military. I've done over 300 interviews, and I think, and I don't want to be disrespectful if I've forgotten someone, I think you're the first person who I've spoken to who's not in the military yet, but is certainly seeking to have a career.
Aspiring. Mm-hmm.
Aspiring. So there was a brief, obviously your family has a rich military heritage, but can you tell us more about that and what got you inspired to join yourself?
So my dad's always sort of pushed me to join any sort of forces, and actually he was quite hesitant for me to join the RAF as he's an army boy himself. So there's quite a few going on there. But I've always because we go to Remembrance Sunday every year, as you know, my family is all to do with the military and everything like that. I noticed the Air Cadets and I had a chat with one of the squadron leaders that's local to my area. And he was like, oh, why don't you come down? So I did, and I just fell in love with the whole system, and it was just, I never stopped going since then, obviously 4 years now.
Now, this is something that I never said in an interview. I actually used to be in the Air Cadets myself in school.
No way.
Yeah, and I studied aeronautical engineering. I've been fascinated with planes as long as I can remember. More than trucks or cars, for me, it was always planes. I've flown a plane 3 times, flown a helicopter once.
Oh my
My
gosh.
favorite plane is not the Hawk. I was interested in
Go on,
American
what's your
military
favorite
aircraft.
plane?
Mine's the F-16, the Falcon.
Hmm.
It's probably late 70s, early 80s. It's still around now. But I have to ask, what got you as a young lady hooked into the Air Cadets? Because like back when I joined it, I mean, you joined it because you knew it would be good for you. They didn't put on a show for us that made me go, oh, I really want to join. I joined it because I love planes.
Hmm.
So what got you especially hooked into the Cadets?
Honestly, it was the same reason as you, planes. I just always wanted to fly a plane. And it wasn't from a movie like Top Gun where I was like, I want to do that. But it certainly resonated with me. And my squadron's really lucky. We actually have a flight simulator in-house. So we can use that when we're training to go flying ourselves. So that's when my first squadron night, we used a flight sim and I was like, I'm never going back.
Now, when you say flight simulator, because obviously back in the day, flight simulator was sit in front of a computer and you just have
Yeah.
really, really bad graphics. It didn't look real. All the way up to now, you can have flight simulators that look incredibly realistic.
Hmm.
And you can even, one of my friends who's a flight attendant, she got to fly in a commercial flight simulator and
Hmm.
she flew over Ireland because she's from Ireland and she could actually pick out buildings that she knew from her childhood in
Yeah,
the flight simulator.
when I flew there, you could see all around me because when I flew myself, we did it in St. Athan, which is near Cardiff Barry area,
Right.
and we went over the sea and we did, aerobatics. It was amazing. But if you want to know more about what the setup looks like in my squadron for the simulator, it's very high tech. Actually, we're very fortunate to have it.
Yeah.
And it's got an actual seat, everything, this, the steering, everything, and it's got the surround. How do I
Screens.
describe it? Screens, yes.
Yeah, all around you. Yeah.
Hmm.
How did that happen? Because that's not a cheap piece of kit, and I never
No,
would have expected to find that in Wales of all places.
don't quote me, but I believe my squadron won a competition to have the flight sim because not all squadrons in my area have flight sims.
I can't, that's one hell of a prize to win for a
I
competition.
know, I
So,
know.
how many times have you flown in this simulator?
Quite a few times now. I can't really remember, but I've flown
Right.
once myself in an actual plane. It's a glider simulator, so not quite
Hmm.
commercial. So
Yep.
because that's what we get to fly as an air cadet.
Right. So you're flying. So it's a simulator for a glider.
Hmm.
Do you do takeoff and landing, or does it just start you in the air?
We do takeoff and landing, so we know. Well, we don't with air cadets. There's certain levels you can do. So there's
Yeah.
blue, bronze, silver, gold, and each of them
Right.
require a certain level of skill. But on this simulator, it's quite fun when we have our NCO nights, which is our non-commissioned officer nights,
Yeah.
and we basically get free reign of having a go. So you can imagine the carnage.
I was going to say I have a 5-year-old nephew, and anytime he gets his hand on any sort of game, whether it's driving a truck or flying a plane, the first thing he decides to do is
Yeah.
crash it. I don't know why.
I'm quite nervous because I'm hosting a charity day at my squadron where, any sort of age can have a go on the flight sim, and I know there's going to be many fatalities on our records.
No, as I said, my nephew, they had a big flight simulator, probably about the same size as yours, in the local shopping centre, which is a really big one here in Sydney, and everyone can see the screen on the flight simulator. And my brother got, him a session on the simulator. Everyone's watching it, and the first thing he does is fly into the side of a mountain, and everyone's just watching this on screen, and they're horrified. He's having a great time.
I have to admit, when we were doing our PTT training, I didn't land on the runway the first few times.
Did you land near it, or did you land on a road? Did you land in a building?
Various. It's practice. This is why we have flight simulators.
For me, the taking off
Yeah.
is not too difficult. You floor it, so to speak, and you pull back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're flying level. If you're doing aerobatics, that's one thing. But if you're just flying level, fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's the landing that always was the most difficult.
Really tricky, because the slightest movement can knock you off your entire path. Yeah.
So how are your landings now? Are you still landing in paddocks or buildings
I
or?
haven't actually been on the flight sim in a while, so I'm gonna have a go next time I'm at Squadron and let you know.
You said you're running a charity event, so the
Mhm.
simulator will be at the charity event?
Yes, that's the highlight of the charity event, I reckon. A lot of people are going to be interested in that.
You should have a landing competition against
Imagine.
yourself. Against yourself. You're the one who's had the most practice, so you should try and stick the landing first and then see if anyone randomly can do better than yourself. What do you think?
These poor little 5-year-olds. They're
Oh,
not.
they're going to be 5 years old. You never
Yeah.
know. You don't
Well,
count them out these
anyone that
days.
comes to the charity day is more than welcome to have a go.
Is this a charity day that you're doing for Miss Wales?
Yes, it is raising money for Beauty with a Purpose, but it's also coincides with what my advocacy is, which is getting more people involved. And I did a study actually in Caerleon, and 1 person out of 10 knows about Air Cadets, even when it's so local to our area.
Yeah.
So having the community day will not only raise money for Beauty with a Purpose, but show people what Air Cadets is about, what we can do, and hopefully we'll get a few people signed up as well.
Let's dig into that because, as I said, out of 300 interviews, I think you're certainly the first in the Air Cadets. Actually, now that I remember, I did interview, and she's a good friend of mine, someone who's an orthodontist in the U.S. Navy. So I have to remember that. Dr. Corinne Devon, she's a doctor as well, if you can believe it. But
Wow.
let me ask you the really interesting question for me is obviously you're entered into Miss Wales, you're
Mm-hmm.
young, you're pretty, and then you've got Air Cadets, where it kind of is like almost the
Two worlds
complete.
colliding.
It's
Mm-hmm.
some people go, oh, I do this on the side, and then I do something different. But you walk in the Air Cadets. It's not a runway walk. It's very different. The makeup, what you can wear, and the wardrobe. You don't have much say in wardrobe when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to Air Cadets. So, do you ever get? You must get questions or like sideways glances when you're in Miss Wales and you say, "Oh, I'm in the Air Cadets," or you're in the Air Cadets and you say, "Oh, I've entered Miss Wales." Do you get
Well,
that?
I have got that in the Air Cadets, as in they're not sure what Miss Wales is, that sort of thing. So I'm actually planning on doing a bit of a presentation for the cadets saying, this is what Miss Wales is, this is what we do. So they have a bit more of an understanding because I got congratulated in one of our squadron nights and all of them turned to me and was like, what? They had no idea, but it is a part of me and I'm just showing that you can do both. But a lot of the Miss Wales girls are very interested and they're always asking questions about it, so that's really nice.
You think there's any chance you can get any of the Miss Wales girls to join the cadets?
I reckon so. Yeah.
I think there should be a charity goal. Like you should be able to raise a certain amount of money for each girl that you can conscript into the Air Cadets. When your fellow Air Cadets ask you about Miss Wales, obviously they're not really sure what it is or what
Hmm.
beauty pageants are. How do you explain it to people who are in the Air Cadets? Because obviously there's a stereotype, but people who are interested in flying or the Air Cadets, I don't know in your case, but in my case, it was predominantly boys. There weren't a lot of girls back in the day.
Hmm.
How do you explain it to them why you decided to enter Miss Wales?
I just explain it as the same thing I do in Air Cadets, as in, I'm the female leader in my squadron. Well, I'm not the female leader, I am the highest ranking female cadet. So I
Right.
promote empowerment for the younger female cadets. So I explain it in terms of I'm doing the same thing in Air Cadets, but in Miss Wales,
Mm,
empowering girls. And that's how it really collides.
right. That makes sense. What is your rank in the cadets?
I'm a corporal, hopeful sergeant. I've had my interview, so
When will you know if you've become a sergeant?
well, I've got to do a junior NCO course first, which is in
Right.
March. So, but I'm a acting sergeant at the moment, so fingers crossed.
So the proper way to address you is acting Sergeant Hawke?
No, corporal's fine.
Corporal. Corporal Hawke. That is so cool. It's just so cool. All the Miss Wales girls should do that when you're there. Just address
Oh
you as
God, I
Corporal
hope
Hawke.
no.
On the subject of Miss Wales, when is it? Because there's so many pageants happening, I have trouble keeping track of all of them
Is
around the world.
the
So,
final is actually April 15th. So
right,
coming up 2 months now, or less than 2 months.
right. How are you feeling?
Excited, nervous. It's my first pageant, so I'm a little bit nervous, but it's exciting.
How did you find out a bit about Miss Wales to begin with? Because as you already said, your fellow air cadets had no idea about it. So how did you find out
Hmm.
about it?
Well, I had friends of a friend do Miss Wales in the past, and they couldn't speak higher of it. So I did a bit of research myself and then discovered I really want to do this. This is definitely a bit of me. So then I signed up, not really expecting anything. Thought it'd be quite a fun thing to do. And now I'm just engulfed in it all.
Is there any part of it that has surprised you? I mean, it's your first time, you had no idea what to
I,
expect. So what's been the most surprising part of the whole thing?
I wouldn't describe it as surprising, more just happy that it's this way because
Hmm.
because I've had a few comments, in my squadron, oh, it's just, the typical less
I can
modern
imagine.
version of a pageant. Hmm. But it's definitely brought to light everything that I hoped it would, and it's all very empowering. And the girls that are involved in it this year they're so lovely.
You've got a very good director as well, I have to
Yes,
say, which
definitely.
which
Paula,
really makes
she's
or yeah,
amazing. Hmm.
makes or breaks the system. So let me ask you a theoretical question. End of this year, so 10
Hmm.
months from now, what would have been Helena's perfect year with your cadets, with Miss Wales, with everything else you're doing? Describe your perfect 2023.
Okay, so definitely would be winning Miss Wales because that would give me the platform to go around to schools, and I'm doing that regardless of if I won or not. But it would just give me the leverage. And then I definitely like to have the sergeants by hopefully early this year, and then hopefully going on to flight sergeant by the end of the year. Hopefully looking forward to Miss World if that was an option. But
Mhm.
yes, my focus this year is Miss Wales and hopefully getting a promotion.
That sounds amazing. I need to go back to planes for a second. So have you have you actually flown a plane yet, like a real one?
Hmm. A glider, which is, a real plane, it has an engine and things
Got
like
you.
that. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not thinking like a paper plane, like a paper glider.
I think
So
when
where
when I
you
say
go?
plane, I think a lot of people think, oh, commercial plane, massive thing. But
Yeah.
I've there's a picture of me with standing next to the plane, and I'm the same height as it. So,
When was how old were you when you had your first flying experience?
well, I actually had one planned before COVID, but that 2 years put an abrupt to everything. So, unfortunately, my first flying
Yeah,
experience was when I was 17, just turned 17.
right. And
Hmm.
how was that? Because I can tell from personal experience, the first time you get to go up in a plane and
It's
you're not flying by
incredible.
yourself. There's no other way to describe it, and it's everything I hoped it would be, and then more.
It's
So how was your first
amazing.
experience?
I just remember my face was
I can
hurting
see you
from the amount I
smiling.
was smiling. I know. The captain who was sat next to me, he was like, "Are you okay? Are you enjoying it? You're not going to be sick?" And I was
Okay.
like, "Woo!" I was
Have
loving it.
Have you watched, like, how did you get interested in planes to begin with? Because for me, typical boy interested in anything that blows up, and it's either it's
Mhm.
warships, tanks, or planes, and I got interested in it, and then I love the idea of flying. Always have. If I could have one
Mhm.
superpower, I want to be flying. How did you get interested in planes to begin
So
with?
my uncle was in the RAF actually, and
Yep.
of course, what else is an uncle gift to 6-year-old Helena? A bag full of RAF goodies, including a World War II compass, plane models, things like that. And then when he's constantly talking about it, giving me books, it's hard to avoid and not be interested.
What do you think? I mean, your family, obviously, you have a rich military heritage history
Hmm.
in your family. Um, what is it like having that? I have no idea what it's like to have a family member in the military. I've spoken to a few people in America, not in the UK, who are very much, military families.
Hmm.
But can you describe to someone who has no idea about the military or the Air Force or the Navy or anything like that, what is it like to have that sort of military heritage in your family? How do you feel it affected your upbringing?
So there's a lot of discipline. I'm always taught if you're 10 minutes early, you're already 5 minutes late. So I'm always very early to everything, very on the ball. Um, my dad had a notebook. I've had a notebook to write to-do lists every day since I could remember. I'm obsessed with everything organizational. My desk is just stacked with notebooks and just discipline and how do I describe it? It is a way of life, if I'm not sounding cringy, but it affects every day. And, we have an office with all of my dad's um, army and things he's done. Have you seen Kingsman?
Oh yeah.
What's his name? Harry? And he
Yep.
has all like the newspapers. It's very much like if I was in my dad's office right now, they'd just be surrounded by plaques and things like that he's been involved with. But it definitely affects everyday life, and I love it.
When you say the word discipline, some people will like positive or negative connotations. I think some people hear the word discipline and they go, "Oh, that just sounds like Helena had to do all this stuff and never had any fun in her life." I look at discipline, particularly growing up, as a very, very important like trait to develop, and that's one of the reasons to go into the cadets is to develop not only discipline
100%.
but respect.
Hmm.
For the chain of command. Sometimes well, a lot of the time you got to do stuff that you don't want to
Yeah,
do. So when you say the word discipline, for you, I imagine it's a positive word.
it's more of like respect to other people. So if you're
Mm,
late, that affects other people. If you do a certain thing, that affects other people. It's more of like having respect for yourself is having respect for others. So I wouldn't say it was discipline in terms of shouting or things like that. It was quite the opposite actually. My mum would give me she'd say it in a certain way and you had to do that. So it wasn't any way, the typical discipline, shouting, anything like that.
And I imagine that you have friends your age or thereabouts who aren't in the cadets who maybe don't show up on time all the time.
My
And
best
how
friend, poor Darcy. She'll kill me
how
now.
But how do, because I'm somewhat like yourself. I mean, as I said, I was in the cadets and I like it for people to turn up on time so we can get started. And as you said, it's a sign of respect. So when there are other people, bless them, who don't have that, I'm not saying they disrespect, but they just cannot, for some reason, seem to turn up to time, on time for anything. How does that make you feel?
I used to really struggle with it when I was little because it's ingrained into me now and it gets me
Yeah.
quite upset when people aren't on time.
Yeah.
Um, but for example, one of my friends for my mum's retirement party, I told her it started an hour and a half before it actually started, so she showed up on time. I No word of a lie, no word of a lie.
An hour and a half.
No, genuinely, yeah,
And then she turned up on time.
10 minutes early actually.
So, do you then explain like to them what you did, or do they have no idea?
I did let her know, but she just thought it was funny.
I'd say this is one thing with I don't want to say young people these days because that sounds like such an old fart sort of thing to say, but I mean even when it crosses over into pageantry as well, because in pageantry they'll say 10 minutes early you're on time is late, that sort of a thing. So I think that's going to serve you well going into pageantry. It's just
Hmm.
turning up to time on things. But what other personality traits do you feel? Because I normally ask people through their pageant career, how have they developed? What have they learned? Blah, 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 blah. This is your first pageant experience. So I'm going to turn it around and say, through your time in the cadets, like, how has that shaped who Helena Hawke is? Because I've got to imagine it's had a huge effect on who you are.
Yeah. So definitely through uniform as well is a huge thing that cadets learn. So how you present yourself is how you're going to be not treated, but how you're going to be viewed.
Mm.
So having your shoes polished properly, having everything ironed, it just represents who you are and what you're about. Because in cadets, if your shoes aren't polished, they're just going to send you home. So it's little things like that that teach you how to correctly present yourself and feel confident in yourself. If you've got your shoes nicely done, you're ironed, you've got the creases down your trousers, you feel good, you are good, and it all goes there.
On the subject of shiny shoes, I got you to send me through a few photos. So I actually
Dear.
do have. Let's see. So here, in terms of shiny shoes, let me remove this. So
Oh, can you zoom in? Can you zoom in?
on those, look at those.
Look at those. You can see yourself through those. The cadets aren't too bad.
Not too. That's a subtle way of
I'm
saying
quite
mine is
strict.
shinier.
We have shoe shining
Yeah.
competitions.
All right, you have to delve into more information on that. Describe to me a shoe shining competition.
So it usually happens the week before Remembrance Day because, Remembrance Day, the most important date in the calendar for our cadets. And there's chocolate to be won, obviously. And we have about 2 hours of straight polishing. And whoever we have first, second, third, and whoever wins just gets a little bar, well, not little, massive bar of chocolate.
In 2 hours, are you shining one pair of shoes? Are you shining as many shoes as you can? Like, how is a
It
competition judged?
varies. The longest I've ever spent polishing my shoes was probably in lockdown when I had a lot of time on my hands, was probably about 3 hours a day for 2 weeks.
Okay, so does it take that long to polish them properly, or for you has it sort
If
of
you go
become a
from
like a
stripped,
relaxation thing? Like you can
it's
just lose yourself in it.
it's definitely therapeutic, and when you see those results, it's definitely worth it. And then you also have to think about adding a layer of brown polish, then black polish, because it gives that depth. And then you've got to add the mirror shine. And then, if you're going straight from stripped, which is boiling a kettle over your shoes and then wiping it down, so from pure leather to like a solid thick layer of bulling, it does take a while.
I had no idea it was that involved.
Mm.
So how do you feel about people then who don't have shiny shoes?
It's a sore subject.
I was going to say, I was reading a study. I don't know if it was an official study somewhere, but they did say one of the things that girls, in general, one of the first things they notice is a guy's shoes.
It's
Now,
true.
most guys I know don't know how to polish their shoes, let alone
So
polish
should
them.
I do a
Like
little
go.
tutorial on my Instagram?
I think you should, but like,
Yeah.
we already talked about the running late. So, I mean, just in general. So we've got a photo of you here. Why don't you describe what's actually happening here first? Give us the context.
Okay, so this is in Caerleon, and this is our Remembrance Day parade. So we're on our way to the church here for the service, and I've got the wreath there to lay down by the church, and then we've got our flight sergeant that's leading us, and then the cadets that are behind me. So yeah.
And what sort of just in terms of discipline and things like that. So you were talking about the uniform before. We were talking about polishing your shoes. What goes into presenting yourself properly for the cadets in terms of getting ready?
Well, that's my greens are different. So greens are what most people would know as combat.
Hmm.
The camo print.
Yeah.
They are very easy to get ready for. They're my, on a busy day, they're my quickest ones to get ready for cadets for a parade night. But blues
Right.
take a lot more. They're more of how would I say, more for a fancy dress if we're
Yep.
having special occasion. And then
Yep.
we've got the light blue collar, which is for #1 blues, which you can't really see my collar now. I have got a new collar now because you
Yeah.
couldn't see it before. And it was basically it represents what the Air Cadets are. And you can see there's another girl behind me. She's wearing a skirt also, but we can wear the slacks as well, the trousers.
Right. So you get a choice as to which one you want to wear. Well, I'm just fascinated by the shoes because I have a pair of shoes that I wear to pageants, and I always like them to be shiny. But I might have to get some tips from you because I'm sure I don't put as much effort into shining my shoes as.
Anywhere my
That's
dad
just.
goes formal, he always gets me to do them.
Do you enjoy doing it? Because it sounds like you
Yeah,
do.
I
Yeah.
really do. Yeah.
Okay. So I never asked this before, but if I have a pair of dress shoes and they need to be shiny for a pageant,
Ship them
and
over. Ship them over.
look, I take care of my things. That's important to me, but I certainly am not polished because I only wear them really at pageants. Because
Mhm.
normally I'm quite active, I'm out and about, so I'm wearing sneakers, running shoes all the time. And then when you're traveling a lot, sometimes the shoes get scuffed, or you're
Yeah,
out and you're traveling
I
and they
feel
get
your
scuffed.
pain.
Yeah, and so how can I bring up those shoes to look like new? Because they do
Okay.
sometimes look a little worn.
Okay, so how much polish have you got on them right now?
Not much, because I don't know how
Okay.
to. So I only put a little bit of polish on when I see a scuff, and I'm
Okay.
talking about get a brush and a little bit of polish, and then that's it.
So what I'd advise you to do is get a kettle and pour boiling water over the tips of the shoes, you know, the cap. And
Yeah,
then when it's softened, get a kitchen roll or a soft cloth and remove all of the remaining polish. And then what you want to do is get a buffing brush. Well, you know, like a stipple brush first, and then
yeah,
stipple black polish or whatever color your shoes are into the shoe. And then you want to get a buffing brush, buff all the excess off. And then you want to get a cloth. This can be any rag of cotton, but I've got
yeah.
like this special one that has like headers.
Of
It's
course
a
you
really
do.
nice cloth.
Yeah.
For Christmas last year, I asked for bulling kit. So I've got all the fancy gear now. But you can use any old cloth really. And then you want to. Oh, I wish I had something. I wish I had it to demonstrate because I just do it automatically. So you want to get the cloth and wrap it around your fingers and twist your fingers like
Yep.
this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then it's tight here. And then you
Yeah.
want to dip a little bit, just the tiniest bit, with the polish. And then you want to have a little pot of water as well, tiniest dip into the water, and then go in tiny circular motions. But if you search it on YouTube, there'll be a much more in-depth in-depth tutorial. Just
I'm
search
sure they're
bulling shoes.
bullying. What is it? Bullying shoes.
Bulling shoes, yeah. And then if you want to go really fancy, you can buy products like Mirror Shine, things like that. But
How long?
never buy the wax because that will destroy your shoes because people cheat in cadets, and I know when people cheat. I know when the cadets cheat when they put wax to make them shiny.
You're like this. You're like a shoe savant. I love speaking to people who have such like in-depth knowledge of just like one area that no one would ever think about. Like I have several areas that are like that. For me, it's like tennis because I was a tennis coach, so I know so much about all the tennis racket and the strings
Yeah,
and things
at
like
least
that.
that's kind of useful. Well, bulling's useful, but
Well, you wear shoes more often than you play tennis. But so I need to go back to the first. So the first thing you said is to pour boiling water on the
yes,
shoe, and
on the
so what
shoe.
you strip off all the polish
Yeah,
that's on the
if
shoe
you want to
first,
really go for a clean slate and get a really,
right?
because if the problem is if you've scuffed them and you've got
Yeah,
dirt on them, you don't want to be rubbing dirt into your
that
shoe
makes sense.
because otherwise it will scuff the bull and you won't get that shine. You won't get that
Right.
mirror. You'll just end up with these little cracks in your shoe. So if you just want to start from fresh, my
Yeah.
advice would be to pour boiling water all over them. Obviously, I put my hand in the shoe. I probably shouldn't while I'm pouring boiling water over the top, but and then you can grab a kitchen cloth or any old rag and just wipe it off very gently. Make sure you've got no dirt on it.
Wow. And that doesn't ruin the shoe.
As long
Pouring
as it's
boiling water on
leather.
it.
No, not at all.
It's
As
leather.
long as it's leather.
Wow. Okay, I had no idea. So you basically strip all the. Oh no, it makes a certain amount of sense, even metaphorically speaking. Like
It's
because you
what we're
really
taught.
you got to get rid of the old to bring in the new. So you put in all that effort, like you said, one time 3 hours to polish a shoe. How long does it stay like you want it to? So you go out once and it's ruined, or a week, a
It
month?
really
Like
can depend on the event because after I put that amount of work in for the Remembrance Day,
yeah,
after Remembrance Day, they were ruined because we were walking over grass because I had to put the wreath down over
yeah.
grass. They were cracked. Oh, and my mum, she came up to me to give me a hug. It was very nice, but
She stood on your shoes.
she stood on my shoe. We don't talk about it because it'll make me cry. I did have to strip them after that, but if we're talking on like a general basis, I could wear
Yeah.
them for a good few months as long as I kept it up with a bit of
Okay.
maintenance for a few,
Yeah.
like a good few weeks.
Yeah, I have to say I feel your pain in terms of people stepping on your shoes because when I go to pageants with my newly shined shoes, I mean, I don't put in nearly the effort that you do, But the girls, you're wearing your heels, and you've got enough problems not standing on your own dress train.
Yeah.
And then everyone wants a photo, and you feel someone stepping, like especially on the side of your shoe,
Yeah.
and then the heel drags along the whole side of the shoe, and you end up with like I don't know if it's a scuff, but it just seems to take the polish off in one straight line, and the rest of the night you're trying to clean. I don't know if you do, but you're trying to like polish it off with a napkin or something, and it just doesn't work. So did you? No, I'm not, how did you react when your mum stood on the shoe? It sounds like you had a bit of a traumatic experience there.
Well, it was just before we went in the church, and we had to, do a little service. So I was like, "Fine, man." I was trying to keep it in, but I have been known to be quite upset about someone scuffing my shoes before.
Do you start yelling? Do you
No,
start...
no. But they will be polishing or fixing. But I've done the same, your turn comes around. When I first joined Cadets, there was people above me, scuff their shoe, things happen. I've been told to go home with their shoes and polish them. It is what it is.
Wow. Okay. But you see, it's funny. You say this, and some people will think it sounds horrible, but now I'm really fascinated to learn how to polish a shoe properly.
When you learn, it's very therapeutic.
I mean, I imagine that you can do something else whilst you're polishing it, right? You could watch TV or something, or
yeah.
I need to look this up now. I don't know why, but I need to learn how to polish. I almost feel like going out and buying a new pair of shoes. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just especially when you go to pageants, and I'm sure it's with the cadets. I mean, cadets, obviously, you need to present yourself properly, but in pageants is exactly the same. Obviously, the attire is somewhat different, but a lot about is just
same principle.
Yeah, but it's especially with the guys. I often see guys turning up, and the girl's gone to all the effort of looking as amazing, and the guy turns up in a tux that doesn't fit, hasn't ironed his shirt, and the shoes are like sneakers, and it just I don't like it. I mean, to each their own. But I just like it when someone puts in effort into anything.
Yeah.
That's what it is for me. Like, if you're going to do anything,
do it properly.
Do it properly. Do it to the best of your ability. And I think that's just an element of you feel good about yourself when you do that. And I think that
if you look good, you feel good, you do good. It all comes around.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now you've got another couple of photos here. Let me just see if I can bring them up. What's happening here?
This is my first flying experience, actually, in St. Athan. That kit is much heavier than it looks. It's so heavy.
How long does it take you to get into that? Because the first time I went flying, I was a civilian. 10 minutes, wow. So is that all protective gear? Is that why it needs to be so thick?
Can you see it's got like yellow and black right by here? That is if you not fall out of the plane, but if you need to get out of the plane, you fall out.
You fall out of the plane.
That would have to be an extreme, unprecedented circumstance. Yeah. And then what have we got? Can you see the white in my leg? That is a sick bag.
Oh. Did you have to use that?
No. Things like flying and aerobatics don't faze me. Thank God.
That's probably a useful attribute to have.
Yeah.
The tail is slightly unusual. I've not seen, because the normally the planes that I've flown, this flap, not a flap, I can't remember what it's called, but that divide would go all the way to the top. This one looks like this is a glider, you said?
Yes. So it's a very minimal plane. So everything on it is very, just as it needs to be. Nothing fancy.
Yeah, it's the first flying experience I had. It was very random. I was on the tennis court, actually, and I was just talking to one of this. Yeah, I was talking to one of my students, and I have quite a loud voice apparently. And I was saying how much I wanted to learn how to fly a plane. And the gardener, of all things, heard me. And when I came, and we were good friends, when I came off the court, he said, "Oh, I booked a flying lesson for you." Because, I overheard you saying that. I'm like, what? And his mate had an ex-Soviet fighter trainer, the ones so it wasn't a glider. It was,
oh my God.
Your jaw's like this. It was basically a giant engine on a really rickety, rusty chassis. Like, you talk about falling out of the plane. This one, you put your seatbelt on, but you can feel the air going through, and like the windows
You
didn't
can
close all the
you
way.
can feel the air in a glider as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
And the noise was ridiculous because it's a giant old-fashioned engine. And I don't know about your first flying experience, and you said your stomach is pretty good. We went up in the air, took off, that was fine. And then he goes, "Oh, so you know a little bit about flying? Do you like you know how to fly?" I said, "Well, yeah, I've seen it done, right? On the flight simulators, you know, you pull back, all that
Yeah.
general stuff." So he goes, "All right, well, you fly it then." And I'm
Were
okay.
you
So
already
now,
up in the air at this
yeah,
point?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't do the takeoff. I wouldn't want to do
Yeah.
that. But then I'm in control of this like Soviet fighter plane in the air. And then he says, "Oh, do you know how to do a barrel roll?"
I love
Like,
barrel rolls.
but it was just like, "Do you know how to?" It's one of those questions you go, "Yes, I know how to do one." You mean you want me to do
Do
one? And then, you know,
it.
you just get the stick and we were flying upside down. Oh, at one, like my stomach is usually pretty good. But at one stage we were flying upside down, not pulling a
Yeah,
somersault, just flying upside down.
I've done that
And
before.
you're
It's amazing.
it's at
You
that
just look
moment.
up. hmm
Well, yeah, you look, you see your death.
You
It's
look
like
down.
you had the parachute on. I mean, I didn't have a parachute on, and all I'm in this like rickety seatbelt like harness and this little glass cockpit, and I'm just like, because there's no G pulling you back into the seat, so I'm hanging there, and I'm just like, this is
Oh
amazing,
my.
but I don't know how I feel about this. So that was my first flying experience. We were doing barrel rolls, somersaults, and then
Yeah,
he
it's
did the
just
landing.
amazing, isn't it?
And I came out of that. When you got out of the plane, were your legs a bit funny? Because that's what I remember. Like,
They
not only
do
the
feel a bit
adrenaline
like,
buzz,
yeah,
but you're a little bit like
you
sea
just
legs.
like, it's like when you go ice skating and then you put your normal shoes back on. That's how I
Yeah.
describe it. Or like roller skating or something like that. You don't feel like it's not because you're so nervous. It's just because
Oh,
I think it's just adjustment
it's
to
the adrenaline, I
natural
think.
ground. hmm
I think you have such an adrenaline rush, and then when
Yeah,
you it's like fight or flight. Even
it
though it's
really
not bad,
is.
it's amazing. But when you come down, have you ever been like skydiving or parachuting?
No, but I'd love to. You can actually do that with Dear Cadets.
Oh, do it.
I think, yeah, I'd love to.
Do it,
That would be
because that
amazing.
also has that same sort of thing, like you're obviously jumping out of a plane and then you hit the ground, and then like it takes a while for things to start working
Yeah,
normally again, just because you've had such a rush.
I think I just have to push myself off it because you think too much about it, don't you? But
Oh, they don't let you do that. So what happens is, the first time I went, probably the first time you go, you do tandem skydiving. So you got someone who knows what they're
yeah,
doing with you. So
hmm
you're harnessed to them. You're on the front, they're at the
yeah.
back. Then you go to the door, and this is a trick. I'll tell you, they all do this. They go, "All right, on the count of three, we're going."
One, two.
One, bang, on two, right? Because what happens if they get to three,
They're like, no,
everyone
no, no.
grips the side of the door and they can't get out. So now I've been twice or three times, I can't remember, but I'll tell you, they will kick you out on two, or they won't
I'd
even count you
prefer that
down.
though. I'd prefer that. I prefer it just to be, and then you can actually enjoy the experience then because the worst part of it is to actually get out.
Yeah, but that's the moment when you also feel most alive, though. I got to tell you, because
I'll have
we
to
did
experience it for myself.
it was a 10,000 foot jump for us. We had 10,000, or I think 6,000, and 10,000 has more free fall time. And when you're in a plane, as you've been, but you're at the side of the door and you know you're jumping out, and you just look out, there's a lot of wind, obviously, and this
Yeah.
ground looks so small, like buildings are the size of like little, like that,
hmm
Lego blocks.
hmm
And then you just realize you're about to jump out of a perfectly functioning plane. That's when
Yeah.
it's not scary though for me. It's exhilarating in a way that other people, they're terrified of it. They'd never do it. It's like on bucket
Mm.
list sort of thing. But for me, it's like, I don't know. It's a sensation that I don't think you can get anywhere
I
else.
definitely want to do it before.
We should, well, do it for a celebration, or do it for your next birthday. Don't get another shoe shining kit. Go do a skydive. I mean, I know you love your shoe shining, but this one will be a little bit more adventurous. It
I
won't last
regret
as
saying
long.
that now. I'm gonna get teased.
No, I really see. I respect that, because, as I said, I respect anyone who takes a deep interest in something. Because so often these days, we're interested in things for such a short period of time. It's really superficial. So anyone
Mhm.
who actually takes the time to master any skill, they have my respect, because I think that takes a lot of, well, as you said, discipline and
Mhm.
dedication. I don't think if you don't have discipline, you can't go deep in anything, because eventually you hit a wall where, oh,
Yeah.
I can't be bothered with this anymore. It's boring. but you just keep doing it because that's what you want to do. So
Mhm.
I mean, you probably will get teased, but
Oh, there's a simulator. That was actually in St. Athan on my PTT training, not in my squadron.
wow. You know what? I didn't realize that was a simulator. It looks so realistic. I mean, look, I
Well,
mean,
they've certainly
outside.
had an upgrade since you were in cadets then.
Well, yeah, no, I thought this was an actual plane. So this is a simulator, huh? Look at all that.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was so fun.
My squadron definitely did not have a simulator. I've never actually been in a simulator like that before. Does it move at all, or is it just
Certain ones
stationary?
do, but this particular one is stationary. But honestly, when you're in it, it does feel like it's moving because
Yeah.
all the visuals are
All
there
the
and you're
yeah.
turning it. It does feel like you are moving.
Wow. Okay. This has really made me want to get back into flying more. I did want to get my pilot's license, but it takes it's not the dedication it takes. I mean, it does take some time, but it costs quite a lot of money if you're not doing
Yeah.
it through the
Hmm.
if you're not doing through the air cadets. But
Yeah.
I mean, I need to ask you. So where do you see? I asked you a perfect 2023, but where do you see yourself? Like, where would you like to see yourself in, let's say, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now?
Definitely enrolled in the RAF. I mean, everyone wants to be a pilot when they think of, oh, I want to join the RAF, everyone says they want to be a pilot. But
Yeah.
for me, that would be, the absolute dream. But I'm very interested, as I said, the humanitarian studies, psychology, and being a counsellor in the RAF. So you can actually be in the RAF, but counsel people who are also in the RAF. So that is something that is definitely calling to me. So that's where I see myself, hopefully.
Do you, I have no idea. Do the armed forces, are they pretty good at providing the mental health support? Because obviously
Yes.
you're at the ragged edge of what humans can do to one another when you're in the military, and it's often not
Hmm.
pretty. So are they pretty good these days at providing mental health support?
Yes, they are. They have chaplains at every base.
Right.
So that's what I'd like to do. And yeah, you can get support anytime you need it. And not only in the RAF, but in air cadets as well. There's so
Yeah.
much support going on. Hmm.
Yeah. Because obviously there's a big, there are ongoing issues in America with military veterans coming back with PTSD and they can't get the
Hmm.
support they need. And it's really, really sad
Yeah.
because these people have, dedicated their life to serving the country and then the country doesn't look after them. So I'm glad to hear that. What would
Hopefully in
be
the UK we
the,
do a better job.
hopefully, what would be the career path? So what steps would you have to go through in order to get to be a counselor in the
So
RAF?
I'd like to go through the RAF, do apprenticeships where you can go through uni and come out with a job at the end of it. So
Mhm.
that would definitely be my preferred path. So yeah, going through the applications once I've done my A levels.
Right. And would there be much travel involved with that? Like, would you be deployed at different bases? How does that work?
Yeah, you could do. I think it depends whether you do part time or full time, or part time reserve. But I'd like to do full time, and hopefully I get to travel along with that.
Right. Wow. Okay. That's amazing. The other thing that you had on your bio is we haven't talked about this at all. Sounds like you do a lot of things. Your love for photography, and you serve as the official photographer for the local football team, the Bird Watchers. So tell us a bit about that.
Yes. So, along with my dad, he has quite a budding passion for photography and he has a few cameras. So, I remember when I was quite young being, interested and wanting to have a go myself. And then, I started to get decent. And then I did my yearbook photos for all my yearbook, including like friendship group photos, like on the schoolyard and things like that. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And part of that, in turn, most of the boys in my year are in this one specific football team. So they asked me to take some photos of them, which I was happy to do because I really enjoyed doing it anyway. And they got to
Yeah.
have some cool shots for their Instagram and things like that. So yeah.
What sort of camera are you using? Is it like an old school with film? Is it a modern
No,
like
it's a
DSLR?
modern, it's a Nikon, a
Mhm.
D13.
Nice.
So yeah, so it's a nice range of where it's nice enough to take good photos, but it's not something crazy.
How does it feel for you? So obviously you've done a lot of photography. I mean, if you're wielding a camera like that, then obviously you have a certain love for photography. How does it feel being on the other side of the lens, so to speak? Because I know you've done a few shoots,
Definitely
and obviously at
different.
Miss Wales, yeah. How did it
Definitely
feel the
different.
first time?
Because I think the first time that I was in front of a camera was with Danny at the Miss Wales Welcome Day, and it
Mm.
did feel kind of strange, but I am loving it. I'd really like to do more into that sort of side of it. But I'd also, maybe in the future, I'd like to maybe follow in Danny's footsteps and become a pageant photographer. But at the moment, my focus is on Miss Wales.
How does it feel taking directions to when Danny's taking photos of you? I imagine that she's giving you directions.
Hmm.
Does it Was that something that you've ever done something like that before? Because obviously in the cadets, you're not given like, oh, pose like this and look
Yeah.
sultry, look fierce. That you never get told that. So was it a bit weird being told how to
I
pose or the
I
angles?
think having done a bit of photography, obviously not up to the level that Danny does it, myself, I sort of understood what she was seeing from her
Yeah.
side of the lens. So I think it did give me a little bit of an advantage because as I was moving, I knew what she was seeing and things like that. So it was kind of weird though.
How did it feel when you got the photos back?
It definitely made me feel empowered, and it was like, oh my gosh, who is that? Because I'm used to the only headshot I had before was my RAF, my cadet portal, my pass to get into MOD bases.
Is that like a driver's license level of bad
Yeah,
photo?
it was
Yeah.
just me in my uniform, like.
Yeah. So a bit different getting
Hmm.
your pageant
Definitely,
photos back.
yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, Helena, we will move towards the close, but just before we do that, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to?
All the girls Miss Wales 2023 finalists.
Will you be available to polish any shoes?
Girls, if you need me, you know where to come, you know where to find me.
Actually, that's a question I've never heard. I've never thought of. Do girls polish their tippy tops? Like their high heels? I polish my shoes all the time, but I've
I
never
think
actually seen a girl polishing her
I
shoes.
don't think so because I think mostly high heels are, fake leather and things like that.
Oh yeah, they're not actual. Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, but you should do a
If
charity
you
drive.
need
Don't
me,
do it.
if you
Don't do
need
it for free. Do
me,
it to raise money for Beauty with a Purpose.
that's a
You
great
know
idea, actually.
what would we say? I mean, you put 3 hours of work into it. I
Are we talking £10 an hour for charity? I could really
think
stretch
that's
it out then.
I think that's more than reasonable. So, if you want to help Helena raise money for a good cause, go to her. Well,
Let me know.
tell the people about the charity event first. So, if they want to go there. How can they join?
Okay, so if you follow me on Instagram, there'll be updates there, but we
Okay.
haven't set a date exactly yet. But the charity event involves you can have a go on our flight sim. There'll be paper plane making competitions, STEM activities, building towers, band opportunities as well, because we have squadron band in our wing level as well. So
Oh
there's the
wow.
snare, the glockenspiel, which I play as well for my squadron band. So yeah, it'll just be a nice community day, and hopefully we'll get a few new recruits as well, whilst raising money for Beauty with a Purpose.
So you haven't set an exact date, but where is it going to be, just so people know?
The Caerleon Squadron. If you search that on
Okay.
Google, then also the details will be on my Instagram once I post about it.
If I was in the area, I would definitely go because I'd like to fly in the
You'd like to
simulator.
have a go on the sim.
Yeah, and I used to make paper planes all the time, as you can imagine,
Yeah,
um, specifically to see which one could fly the longest. And I just became fascinated with trying to, take a piece of paper and see how long I could.
we have
I
a
even made.
prize for flair and we have a prize for distance.
I don't have the flair. I did make some boats out of paper, and that went well as well, like making a little wall. Anyway, I'm revealing far too much about myself. Let's go to the final 10 questions, just random questions. So here they are. Number one, what is your favorite word?
Pilly palla. It's a Welsh word for butterfly. It just sounds really nice when you go pilly palla.
Never heard that one. The only Welsh word I think I've heard in interviews is cwtch, which is
Oh
hug,
yes,
right?
hug. Mm-hmm.
And then
If
the
you
other
go,
one,
Billy Pella.
Pilipella. The other one that really long, what's that long place name? All I remember is that it ends
Go
in
go
go go
go.
go. That's all I remember. So number 2, what is your least favorite word?
Crisp. I don't like it when you can hear like mouth sounds. So when people say crisp, it's not for me.
So I'm assuming you don't like ASMR then.
Oh no.
You don't like the sounds of chewing in your ear and all that.
Absolutely not. No. No.
That's fair enough. Number 3, in life, what gets you excited or what turns you on?
I'd have to say flying. Typical answer, but I'd have to say flying.
Well, I think it's an expected answer from you. It's certainly not a typical answer from most pageant girls. I mean, most pageant girls, if I tell them about what's it like jumping out of a plane for a skydive, they sound terrified. You looked really excited, so that is not. It's not. You're like, oh, tell me more. I want to do this. Other people are like, oh, I'd never do that. Number 4. So that was what turns you on. Number 4, what turns you off? Scuffed
Poorly
shoes.
polished shoes.
I was going to say. I predicted that.
Or just
dear.
bad uniform. Bad uniform in general. The creases on your trousers have to be. Sometimes you put cornstarch on them as well to make them properly creased.
Wow, that's next level. But is it worse for you when someone is just dressed absolutely terribly, or when there's like one thing that's off?
It's probably more frustrating when one thing's off because you're so close.
Yep.
And when we're doing inspection, it's like, oh, come on. And we have this little prank in our squadron. So on our berets, we have this little badge with, you know, the Air Force Air Cadets on them. And we flip them upside down and then you fail inspection.
I knew as soon as you said that, I know what the prank's going to be. It's just going to be like that. I'm glad to see some things haven't changed. I mean, even though I was in the Air Cadets in Australia, some things just never change. Can't let your guard down for 1 second. Number 5, what sound or noise do you love?
Oh, that's a really tricky one. I do really like the sound of heels on like floor, like click clack, click clack.
Oh, okay.
You know, very, very strange, but you know, when we're all walking, me and the girls, and you go click clack, click clack. It's very nice.
Almost sounds like the sound of marching, all in time. Click clack, click clack.
You'd be surprised with like training and pageant walks how similar like the structure is to marching, and just like the poise and, you know, having to, you know, sit up straight, having, you know, by the end of ATC Sunday, which is our annual event for Air Cadets, you know, the birthday of Air Cadets, you're standing there for 2 hours and you're like rocking back and forth, but it's good practice because your feet do hurt by the end of it.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. I think there's a lot more in common between a lot of things than people realize. I mean, a walk is a walk is a walk. I mean, you need posture. There's no walk that looks better if you're slouched over. And then there's a lot of timing, and there are certain things like walking confidently, not losing your balance, all that stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me. And then standing for a long time is very painful. Walking is okay.
It hurts. People don't realize. Yeah, no, I'd much rather be walking constantly for 2 hours than standing constantly for 2 hours.
Yeah, I say that because when I was coaching tennis, if you have the really little ones, you don't really move because they can barely hit the ball. So you end up standing there for even an hour. And if you just stand for an hour, it's really bad because everything just locks up. But if you go walking for 3 or 4 hours, you're fine.
We place bets on people in our squadron who's going to fall over first. Yeah.
What do you mean fall over? You mean faint?
I mean pass out.
Yeah, have you ever passed out?
No, luckily I've got the technique where you have to like rock back and forth.
So how long, if this was for charity or for a world record, how long do you think you could stand?
If it was for charity, I'd have to do it forever. I think I could.
You couldn't do it forever. So how long do you? A few days.
I give myself let's say 8 hours, and then anything above that's a bonus.
I'm tempted to fund a I've got many charity ideas for you, polishing shoes and seeing how long Helena can
You
stand
set me up now.
before she falls over. Oh, no. I was thinking fainting, but anyway, that's a sound or noise that you love. What sound or noise do you hate?
Oh, I've just thought of one that's just popped into my head. Is that, you know, when people's shoes don't quite fit them properly and they scuff their feet along the floor, they don't pick their feet up? That really frustrates me.
It's so funny because I hate that too. Because I feel when someone's dragging their feet, we were talking about
It's
discipline and
quite
respect.
slovenly.
Yeah, it just sets all those other things off. Like, I feel like I know the person
Yeah.
based on the way they walk. And if you can't be bothered
And
picking
if you're
your
a
shoes
slow
up,
walker as well,
well,
it's game over.
well, I don't like people who run walk.
No,
I don't like people who are
I'm not
scurrying
talking about
everywhere
that
because then it
bit.
looks like you're out of control. But
Yeah.
the worst walkers for me, not only they're slow, but they have no sense of direction. And they're just kind of like aimlessly wandering all over the place and you can't get past them. That for me really sets me off.
I completely understand that one.
This is revealing far too much about our personalities here, and everyone now knows how to trigger us. Not sure this is a rule. I would just walk really slowly, wear scuffed shoes, and drag them along the floor. And number 7, if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
It'd have to be flying, wouldn't it?
Flying. Yeah.
Every answer's the same here.
Can't talk about flying so much and then not pick flying. Number 8, what job other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Probably like forensics or like detective, crime scene, murder cases. Find that fascinating.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm only laughing because every single one of you gives me that answer. Like, what would you like to do? I'd like to be basically in CSI. I'd like to study serial killers. I'm like, what's wrong with all? And then someone told me it's not a pageant girl thing. Apparently, it's just a girl thing.
I think it is because like
You're all
sometimes
just
me and my friends
fascinated
just
with
watch
murderers.
like Netflix documentaries on like true crime.
Like, what was it? There's a documentary on Dahmer, I think, on Netflix, a serial killer. He was notorious, I think, for eating his victims or something.
I think that's a bit far.
It's good to know there's a line somewhere. I just like, why are you all fascinated with serial killers? You're pageant girls and you're all interested in murder. I'm slightly worried now. Number 9, what job would you definitely not like to attempt?
Probably a vet because I just adopt all of them. I'd be like a zoo in my house. I'd get too emotionally attached to the animals, and I don't think I could. If I had to put one down, I just couldn't. I couldn't do it.
What's the best sort of pet?
I'm a dog person. I have to admit, I am. Yeah.
What kind of dog?
I like a big dog, like a golden retriever.
Okay, we can still be friends, and I can't. I only say that because I can't stand small yappy dogs. Oh, they're just the one that fit in your handbag. Yeah, and it's not the dog's fault. I always think it's the owner's fault because the owner hasn't trained the dog. So anytime I see a misbehaving dog, I'm not angry at the dog. The dog's just doing dog things, but it's the owner that I always have a bit of a word with. Anyway, final question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Probably that I was just a nice person, because I just want to be after every conversation, I want people to walk away and be like, okay, you feel better after having a conversation.
What do you think the shoes would be like in heaven? Immaculate.
Immaculate. No scuffs. Scuffs don't exist in heaven.
Oh, if only that was true in real life. Well, Helena, it's been an absolute joy getting to speak to you about a whole range of topics that I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone about before. And now I'm really going to go away and look at YouTube tutorials of how to polish my shoes.
I'll send you some links.
If I do end up going to another pageant with really shiny shoes, I'll send you a photo, and you can give me a mark. What do you think, like a score out of 10?
Yeah.
See, you say that jokingly, but I would really like to learn how to polish my shoes to the point where they would pass.
It's a great life skill. It's a great life skill.
So what would I need to show you? Like a whole 360 degree of
So
the shoe?
if you want to cheat, you can use a flash because that makes them
No,
the
I don't
shoes
want to
look
cheat.
nicer.
I don't want to cheat. I want to do it the real
the
way.
best way to do it is natural lighting, without the flash, and just like go across the shoe like that. So then you can see like the glimmer. And if I can see your camera in your shoe, then you've passed.
I'm going to, if you don't hear from me for the next five weeks, you'll know what it is I'm doing. I'm polishing my shoes. Well, I'll keep you on the line for just a second whilst I hang up with the audience. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
We will speak to you later. Bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.